vocabularies to separate entities. And basically, and this is where, you know, I really admire Chris, because I don't have a clue about Mandarin, but the whole idea is to make sure that the approach that we use is brain friendly. And instead of trying to see language as a single items and then teaching this glue that we call grammar, which very often is kind of it's elaborate and give the impression to kids, especially the average ability or low ability ones, that grammar is like maths, you know, when you have these words to memorize and then grammar rules to put them together, which we know from research, unfortunately, doesn't work with a certain kind of kid. And my research is basically 50–60% of the average comprehensive school kids. But even in highbrow independent schools, you find that a lot of kids can't actually cope or cannot learn languages through fluency. So lexical grammar approach is a way to chunk language in feasible, learnable chunks of language, which are high frequency, high surrender value, which means they can be used to communicate in the real world. And what Dylan and I did in the original book was really trying to stay faithful to this vision of making language learning easier for the masses, for kids who struggle, by chunking language and seeing language as this beautiful machine where the main engine are verbs, and around these verbs, around this core, you then build the possible things that are connected to the verb, which in lexical grammar are called collocations, word partnerships, are words that normally sit together in a sentence, and colligations, which is the real grammar. Colligation means how words are glued together. So pattern grammar. So pattern grammar and lexical grammar is viewing language as chunks, sentences that we teach the students how to manipulate creatively. And as the book proceeds from Unit 1 to Unit 19, we make sure that these items get recycled many times over so that they're never left behind, so the kids will never, ever, ever, ever see this memory trace disappear, as it unfortunately usually happens with typical textbooks. So you'll find that grammar still has an important place in lexical grammar, because those chunks need to be manipulated in an intelligent and deliberate way by the kids. So don't think that this is just parroting, regurgitating a lot of chunks and just memorizing them. That's part of it. But at some point, and I'm sure I've seen Chris, the way Chris and his team has beautifully integrated all these ideas with such a complicated and challenging language for Caucasians, at least, you know, for people who speak European languages. Grammar actually occurs, but later on in a teaching sequence. So the kids are given plenty of opportunity to process these chunks of languages, which you find encapsulated, framed in those sentence builders. And then after much processing through reading and listening, and plenty of opportunities for retrieval practice, when the students are asked to then push out, we call it pushed output, push out those very chunks through highly structured activities, then the grammar will come in and add some generative power to the chunk itself. What is great about what Chris and the team have done is that stay completely faithful to this idea of extensive processing instruction, ensuring that this the recycling happens ad nauseum, to death, and through, I believe, engaging and activities which are slightly gamified, if you want. They're not exactly games, but they do entail, you know, spotting the missing details, spotting the intruder, spotting the faulty translation. So there's always sort of a kind of detective work, but in a kind of fun sort of way. I hope I haven't talked too much, and it is clear what extensive processing instruction is. I would add just one thing, that of course this book is a book, and it's just need to breathe in the book life, the culture that Dylan and I couldn't put in for physical limitations of the text of the book, and of course, loads of listening. Listening is so important. I'm already giving you a big hint, Chris. We need a listening book, and I can't wait for that to happen, because I think that would be amazing. We have that synergy of those great activities and the listening, especially with all the native speakers, fantastic native speakers you have on the team. I think it'll be an absolute treat for any Chinese teacher in here and all over the world. By the way, Chris, there's a lot of people from Australia that contacted me. They're so excited about this, and I'm sure this book is going to be a great hit over there. Dylan, do you want to add anything, or Chris, do you have any questions, or anyone?
Thank you so much, Jan. I'll just add that one feature in this book that doesn't occur in the original books is just some writing practice. So each unit, and I'll let Chris talk more about this, but one thing which they've put in, which is totally original, is writing practice. Key characters that feature in each of the units are introduced at the start of each unit and are staggered and recycled throughout the book, which is, I think, such an important thing. But yeah, Jan, thank you very much for your summary of EPI. And yeah, I'll hand back to Chris. Thank you.
Lovely, thanks guys, and thanks so much both of you for joining us today. It's an absolute honour, fantastic. And sadly, Dr. Conti's got to leave us soon, so he's going out for dinner. You're in Italy at the moment. Congratulations on getting to the final, by the way, the Euros. Brilliant stuff.
Thank you.
So yeah, so as you can see, if it's put in here in Chinese and English, you can read in your own time. And the EPI approach is also it's very nicely explained in this book, Breaking the Sound Barrier, which is by Dr. Conti as well. This book here, which someone could put a link in the chat. Maybe Maggie can do that. If you want a copy, I totally recommend reading it. It's absolutely fantastic. It's full of really great ideas and activities which you can just pull from there and put into your lesson. And then later in today's session, Maggie and I will show you some activities that we've been using based on the EPI approach. Now, if it says down here, if you've not bought into the approach, if you say, oh, not interested in EPI, you don't want to learn about it, that's fine. Okay, you can still use the book as a workbook. So it's a source of printable material for your lesson. So what's really great about this book and this approach is that there's lots of writing practice, lots and there's a lot of variety as well, all the way through the book. Because what's missing with other textbooks that are out there is that there just isn't enough practice for writing characters. That's a really important part of learning Mandarin and getting those really good grades at GCSE in particular. Okay, and because of the
Chris, may I just butt in for a second, because you remind me of something that a lot of teachers have said. So imagine that you don't buy into the approach. I've had plenty of messages on a daily basis of teachers say who were absent or were short of homework to do. It's a brilliant, apparently, from what I hear from everyone, it's been great for a lot of teachers who had to go on a course or whatever, and each chapter was completely self-standing. So you can simply give it to the students on a rainy day when you are sick or you don't want to talk or you want just a head down lesson, and it's perfect for that. Sorry for the interruption, Chris, but it reminded me.
Oh, absolutely. No, it's a really important point, because we're all very busy. And this is the other thing about this approach as well, the EPI approach, and just using this book, it just saves so much time for you as well. And because it's linked to a website as well, which is I'm going to show you in a minute, it's a Language Gym website. You can find that you've got your lessons already prepared for you. So if you come down through here, you can see the again the table of contents, which is basically your scheme of work if you want it to be, if you want to use it as a textbook, which is really good. Okay, and you can see it goes on a number of topics, like in a lot of books it starts with age, saying when your birthday is, and then so on, and everything's built and ties in together. And just like Dr. Conti just said, everything's recycled. A lot of the characters, the reason we've specifically chosen characters that reappear in each unit for learners to build upon as they go through. And I can just give you a quick example actually of my students' work based on 5 units so far. So I put this on Twitter. So just after 5 units, and only 5 units, they're able to produce this, and from memory, which is unbelievable. Like I've never achieved this before. So I was absolutely shocked. And these are not kids that, well, some of them are high ability, but not all of them are. And I was absolutely amazed. So I suppose that you look at it and there's a few mistakes here and there, but again, hence why I show you this, you know, if it wasn't from memory, there wouldn't be the mistakes there, because we were literally copying from a piece of paper, but they weren't. So as you can see, this boy here, okay, and he forgot his book, as they do. So he had to staple it in to his booklet for him. But yeah, there you go. So it's incredible, and you can see the complexity of the characters as well because of the high level of repetition. You know, it's absolutely phenomenal. It really is. So, like I say, I'd really recommend learning the EPI approach in order to be able to achieve that. So as I go down from the contents to here, this is the first unit, which is also in the sample as well. Okay, and this is what's called a sentence builder. So if you're not familiar with what a sentence builder is, it's basically breaking down the sentences into these different columns, and then they become chunks, as Conti mentioned. So 我叫 Alex is a chunk, sorry, is a chunk, which is I'm called Alex. But what's really good about this is that you can substitute the words to make a whole variety of sentences. So lots and lots of different sentences, and it makes it really exciting for the learner because they're learning the sentence in context, the chunks in context in a sentence. Now, a lot of the time we see teachers, and I've been guilty of this in the past, and I've kicked myself and said, why did I do that? Is teaching vocabulary individually, just one word after another. Whereas this, you can just put this whole table up onto your PowerPoint, which we'll show you a bit later. And then you can literally just use that as the resource for teaching in a lesson. So, and also what's really good and why it makes it accessible to all learners, no matter what ability level they are, even if they're new to the school and have never learned Chinese before, is that you can literally, when you bought the book, you can literally photocopy this page and then they can stick it in their book and they've got it as reference to look at in their book. And after you do lots of practice and exercises, they can then just like put their book to one side, or you can say to them, oh, you don't need your book anymore, close your book and see if you can do it. And then you can take the, you know, if you convert this into your lesson PowerPoint, you can take the English and pinyin away over time, and eventually it helps them develop their character recognition skills as well. So it's absolutely fantastic for that. And as we move down, you've got the key characters. Okay, so what we've done, we some of the character writing sheets that we've seen out there doesn't have the English translation on for a start. And the stroke order usually goes above the grid, which is not very clear, so the students don't follow it at all. So we've been using this method instead, where the stroke order is there and they actually do it because it's there. You know, otherwise they wouldn't actually do it. You know, so as you can see with si, wo, and then I've seen children, I've been standing over them, look at them, and they've actually been doing it according to the stroke order as it is here, which is absolutely fantastic. Okay, so moving down from here, you've also got different sections of the unit, starting with vocabulary building, which is, again, this then sorts out your sequence of lessons for you without you even really thinking too much about it. Oh, let's start with words first. Okay, so you build up the vocabulary here, lots of different variety of exercises. Okay, and here again, a bit more character writing practice. And then we move down to the second phase of the teaching, which is reading. Okay, reading is a really, often I think it should be done a lot more with teaching Chinese, definitely reading aloud, 朗读, because it's used a lot in Chinese culture and in China, but why don't you do it here? And it's an absolutely fantastic way to develop pronunciation. And I noticed on Twitter today, there's a bit of a conversation going about reading aloud isn't speaking, because it's not, it's reading aloud, which I thought was really interesting, because then kids will say, oh, I don't like speaking. I said, we're not speaking, we're reading aloud. You know, and that helps to develop a lot of skills, reading, listening, and speaking, because you're actually, or pronunciation, should I say, because as you know, when tones combine, they can change as well. So
Chris, can I butt in onto this before I leave?
Yes.
Something that a lot of people don't know, and it's something that usually when I say this in my workshops, people are very surprised, is reading aloud doesn't just develop good pronunciation and all the other beautiful things that you said, but it's something much more important in a way, because we found from recent research that when we can actually read aloud things fast and effectively, you also increase the ability of the brain to acquire new vocabulary. So the ability to read aloud correlates with language acquisition. It's something that I can explain the reason for, but it's to do with a phonological memory. So I found that in my travels around Australia, when I meet a lot of Chinese teachers, unfortunately, there's not much reading aloud going on. There's a lot of choral repetition, but not sustained reading aloud. So what Chris said is absolutely the most important thing that any teacher of any language should bear in mind. With this, Chris, I need to dash to the dinner, the family dinner. It was a pleasure to be here. Good luck. It's such a great effort from everyone. It's just a beautiful piece of work. You made me super proud, honestly. Best of luck with it, and ciao. Take care, everyone.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, so Gian. Lovely. So that was wonderful to have him join us today. Fantastic, especially because he's on holiday as well in Italy, visiting his family after a long time. So as you go from the reading phase, you can go into translation, because translation is part of the GCSE as well, and that's important. Also, just it's really good to help them process the language and know what it means in English and in Chinese and vice versa. And then we come down to writing, and writing's the last phase. And you'll find that the children will at this point, because they've done the sheer amount of exercises. I mean, these can be in-class exercises as well as homework. Okay, over time, over a sequence of lessons, you'll find that they can do pretty much most of it from memory as you go through that phase there, which is absolutely fantastic. So we're going to come down to Unit 2. Okay, so Unit 2, just quickly just show you the sentence builder. As you can see, a lot of the language is repeated from the previous unit, though. So Jiao John, so saying the name, saying the age, the numbers, and it's just built upon with the birthdays sort of thing. So this is the book. In a moment, in a bit, we're going to have Maggie come show us some activities. But before we do that, I'm going to show you quickly the Language Gym website, which is tied to the book. Okay, so it's lovely to see Chinese on an equal footing with the other languages here in this grid. So ni hao, bonjour, hola, you know, hello. It's fantastic to see. You can go into, I'm going to go into the game room and show you the activities they've got on here. So Mandarin's here. Okay, and then we have something called a vocab trainer, rock climbing. And so I'm going to show you the vocab trainer to start with. Okay, so the vocab trainer has got primary, eventually will be primary resources on there as well. We're just going to go to books, so click on books, and you can see that the Sentence Builders Book 1 for Chinese is here. I've done up to Unit 17, there's 19 units, I'll finish the rest tomorrow. But let's just do this one as an example. So you can see here on the vocab trainer, there's lots of variety of activities for your classes. So your classes can go on here to monitor progress. You can have a look at the vocab list. So some of the vocab there, some dates. Okay, but you can also do these different games. You've got Beat the Robot, which is quite cool. I quite like this one. So I'll show you guys what this looks like. So you can change the difficulty, easy, medium, hard. You can do English to Mandarin, Mandarin to English. So if the students have got the Chinese keyboard installed, they could do this. And then you've got to beat the robot. Oh, did I beat the robot? Oh, yes, I did. Oh, thank God. And then this one, okay? Okay. So you can see the robot is competing with you. Yeah, so that's one thing there. And then you can also do it in Mandarin to English as well, if they haven't got the Chinese keyboard that they've got access to. So here they have to write in January the 12th, like that, and then they keep going. So the English one seems to be a bit faster, actually. Great, so that's that one. This one is an audio boxing game, which I'll show you, which is really good. Now, coming soon, from what Dylan told me, there's going to be something called a listening trainer, which I think is really, really, really awesome, because I find with like websites like Quizlet, Gimkit, Lookit, I know they're really great, but they don't have anything about practicing listening, whereas this website will very soon. Okay, but in the interim, we have this audio boxing game, which is really cool. So I'm going to go back to saying when my birthday is again. Okay, just go down to there next. And here we go. So
4月9日
so the kids can play, press the question again. So
4月9日
there you go.
3月13日
So 3月13日.
9月22日
So they can practice their listening that way, which is really cool. And I think boys especially like the boxing. I know I've been trying it out with them. They get really into it, sort of thing. So that's the Language Gym website, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. Their kids love it, and you can track the progress. And I think as subscriptions go, it's pretty cheap. If you were going to have subscriptions on several websites like Wordwall, loads of different ones, you know, actually it's cheaper if you just have this with all the variety that's there. Yeah. So moving on from there now.
Hi, Chris.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Am I able to share my screen for a second? I don't know if you're able to give me that power. and I didn't log in via Zoom. If not, it's okay. Oh, yes. Let's see. Okay, so I just wanted to butt in for a second. Can you see my screen?
Not yet, no.
Please grant browser. Holy smokes, I should have done this via, hold on, if it doesn't let me. Okay, it's not letting me do it because I didn't sign in properly. I just wanted to say a couple of words about the vocab trainer and the upcoming listening trainer, which is that they follow the same EPI pattern, which is always presenting the language, so modeling the language and then doing different receptive processing of the language, followed by producing the language. So all the way from your multiple choice activities to recognition activities and tiles and memory games, all the way to beat the robots, which is where you have to produce the language, and also the translation. Coming literally next week, and this is why I was trying to share my screen, is a listening trainer. And the listening trainer has got 9 different activities. And this is particularly useful for the Mandarin because it starts with a self-study, which presents the language. Then you have multiple choice, you have tiles, anagrams, gapped endings, mixed up sentences, sentence puzzle, and then delayed dictations and delayed translations where you hear the sentence and then there's a pause and then you have to produce it. And this is particularly useful for Mandarin because all of these, they start with an audio where you hear the sentence and then you're also able to see the sentence. So you have the characters. So it'll be like, wo wu sui. So you'll hear it and you'll actually see that wo wu sui. You'll see the characters and then you'll interact with the characters via 8 or 9 different activities. And there's also, with a listening trainer, I've managed to integrate a speed button. So the user can, because on the audio boxing that you just heard, the production is quite quick. But I've put in a special button which allows you to slow it down. So you can either have wo wu sui or wo wu sui. So it'll slow it down by 20%. And yeah, so that's coming next. With the Language Gym subscription, I would just add one little caveat, which is the Language Gym is really, really good and it's really well developed for Spanish, French, Italian, and German. Mandarin is starting, well, Chris, you're developing it and your team will develop it. So it's already looking good, but at the moment, there's not as much content in the Mandarin. It would be really, really good, though, if you had a school that had Spanish and French and a Mandarin department, because with just one school license, you get access to all of the content on the site. So if you had a school that had already Spanish and French and a subscription, then it would automatically sort out the Mandarin provision as well. Okay, I'll pass back to you, Chris. Thank you.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. I think we've got a question in the chat as well. Wanted to get back to Dorlan there. Lovely. Okay. So that's the Language Gym website. Now I'm going to show you another website that's really cool. So which is also linked to this. So you've got the sentence builder here. Now, some of you might think, oh, you know, making one of these could take a lot of time, you know, but actually you can do it digitally on this website, sentencebuilders.com, which has been recently developed and is available for Mandarin, which is fantastic. So if you go to resources here, you can find Mandarin. Hopefully Mandarin will come on here one day. I think I've been in talks with Martin about that, thanks to Dylan. But here's Chinese, okay, and someone else has created, you can create, it says create new resource, which is really good. So if there's some unit you want to top up the language, let's say, you can do it through using this. So I'll just show you a completed version of the Mandarin with nationalities. So this is really cool. So you can see here, you've got a sentence builder that's been created by this person, okay, and you can expand it to a large screen like this, and then you can zoom in. And if you want to, you can do like a screenshot. Do a screenshot of this and put it into a PowerPoint, and you can use it in your lesson, or you can just have this on the screen in the lesson if you want to. What's really good about this as well is if you click on it, there should be a sound come out. So if I go on to here, I'm just going to put that to one side for the moment. So it should speak on build. That's it. There you go.
他是法国人，
That's really cool, right? Brilliant. And then you can build from the table, so you can say
你 是澳大利亚人。
Yeah.
你是澳大利亚人。
Brilliant. And then you can take the translations away if you want, so you can, in a lesson, you can test people's knowledge, that sort of thing. That's really good. Okay. You can also do activities with them as well. So activities, there's loads of stuff here that you can have a look at, like translation and so on and so forth. So I highly recommend, again, this subscription for this is like pennies, and you know, for what you're getting out. It's fantastic. So, and it also saves you a huge amount of work from your own sentence builders as well. So I highly recommend you look into that as well. Great stuff. So this is the sentence builder. Now, in a moment, Maggie's going to show you some activities using this, how to convert this into some activities for a lesson. I mean, I've got some samples here at the bottom, which I'll share with you. So this is like an example lesson I did, okay, using unit 1. So first I say listen and follow when this is stuck in their book. They listen to me, they follow words and make sure they're listening to it. Then they read with me, so I read the sentence out, and then I ask them to say, I say, "Wajao, Alex," and they repeat, and they say it back, and then ask them what it means, and so on and so forth, so I know they're concentrating. And then we do an activity such as this, which is the activity, which is delayed translation. I'll say the sentence, like, "Wajao, how, ha." Right, and now write it on their mini whiteboards, and then they show me that sort of thing. So it's just a very quick kind of introduction to that. Silent translation is a favourite of mine because you kind of at the characters in each column, and then they write down the English translation and they show you sort of thing. So this is an example of a lesson when you're doing a vocabulary building or character recognition, okay, to develop their vocabulary. There's a small example there. So I'll show you that. I mean, one of the things to think about as well is, when do you start using the Sentence Builders book? I mean, you can literally dive in straight away if you want to. I'd recommend perhaps doing a kind of a gentle introduction in year 7 of introducing greetings and numbers before diving into it. I do have a whole collection of our PowerPoints here for the first term to get the children warmed up to then use the Sentence Builder, which will be available for free for everybody. I'll put that into the chat in a moment. But I'm going to hand over now to Maggie to show us some exercises that she's, well, activities. And if there's anyone else happy to share as well today, it'll be absolutely wonderful. Okay, so Maggie.
Oh, hi, Chris. Thanks. Let me try to see if I can share my screen as well. Yep. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's great. Thank you.
Cool. Right. Thanks, Chris. Let me just play this. Right. Before I get started, I just need to first say a big thank you to, now, the activities I have pulled together here, as you know, like I've magpied off a lot of people from Twitter on the TES, and I think Simona is here. I think I need to say a big thank you to you. I've never met you before, but I've pinched a lot of ideas off you from your Twitter, and you've kindly shared your very inspiring Mars and Years Padlet, which is a great source of inspiration. So, and I've tried to acknowledge people where I've taken the ideas from. If I have missed you out, my apologies. Okay, I'll try to acknowledge it as many as possible. Right now, the quantifying Chinese. This is from Dr. Conti himself, but I've kind of changed it around. Well, I'm not changed it around, just changed the layout a little bit. But this is really the years in maths. That is where the EPI teaching sequence is all about. I think, Simona, I've taken one from you. This is much easier to see, and the maths and years and what it means. But today is not the day to go into that. But there are a couple of activities that I'm going to just very quickly talk to you. Like, I think I attended Dr. Conti's CPD event back in 2019, and I totally agree with him. Like, listening is so important, and there's one thing that we don't do so well in language classes, because it's so often a case of just pressing a button and say, oh, listen to this track and then answer a few questions. So that's why I'm totally into this approach, because it really put listening and communication back at the forefront of language learning. Right now, working with the sentence builders, if you've seen Chris has spoken to you, you can use the book itself, which is a kind of paper copy, hard copy, but you also can breathe life into using the sentence builder website. But the in between, if you're in the classroom, using Flippity, you also can create a sentence builder and make it come a bit more alive. Yeah, and you'll be amazed by how time saving this approach is, because once you have your sentence builder set, the first couple of lessons, you really don't need to have all these fancy all singing, all dancing PowerPoint, because like Chris has mentioned, like you can read, you just start with a sentence builder, go through a whole lot of activities like reading out loud, get pupils familiar with the sound, just based on the sentence builder. And then there's a lot of choral repetition, 大声说, 小声说, and then using call responses. Now, one of the activity I like a lot is the goals repetition. One of the things is like, my pupils like it a lot as well, like you get them to say the sentence very slowly and make it sound as spooky as possible. Like, you can say at normal, the teacher say at a normal speed, and then the pupils have to respond in a very slow, very slowly. So I say 他的生日是8月17日, and you have the people coming back to you. 他的, they just drag it out, but by dragging out, they're very focused on enunciating the words and getting very familiar with the pinning, the phonics. Okay, so these are just one thing that you can do very quickly, and you can see that you can take it through a lesson very quickly and getting them very familiar with the vocab and the sound that they'll be working with for that topic. This is pretty much based on the unit 2 of the sentence builder book that was written. And there are lots of things that you can follow up with. For example, get them to be alert to the sound. You can say 对,不对, then you can say the sentence up correctly, and then once, and then the second time around you say by throwing a little change or a bit of mistake into your pronunciation, and it's up to the pupils to identify where the teacher's gone wrong, and then they correct you. So you're getting them to listening very hard. And the other easy one to do is also complete the words, or like read my lips. I think for those, especially for Scottish people with a very strong Scottish accent, like read my lips is one of the things that we have to do while here. So you can start by saying the same sentence again if you want, or you just flick it around. But if I say 他的生日是, and then I just literally just mouth out without making the sound, 8月17日, without making the sound, and then have the pupil finish off my sentence. Yeah, so that's one of those quick ones. And sentence builder, I don't know if you have tried, if mini whiteboard is part of your repertoire, but it works really well with mini whiteboard as well. So so you can say something, again, go back to have a little error in the pronunciation, and then pupils then have to write down where the mistake is. Also, you can do liar, pants on fire. So I'll say a sentence, and I'll read out a sentence, but the pupil have to identify whether I've made a mistake or given them the correct information. So, like for example, the sentence here is 他的生日是8月17日, but if I tell them that 他的生日是9月17日, then they need to tell me whether it's true or false, 真的还是假的, and then so you can see how it can work really, really well and very quickly in the classroom. And there's lots of activity that you can turn over in a very short space of time, and you're working very hard on their listening. Yeah, this is an easy one to like working with opinion. So after you familiarize them with the word, the next lesson, for example, for a starter activity, this is a good one, a Scrabble word. So for example, they've been working on months and numbers, so you can just put this up on the board as a starter activity and have the pupil write down very quickly in the Chinese number using pinyin and see if they can build a score as high as possible. So those that are quick will say like, building words with chi is probably better than building a word with say ba, something like. So that's very quick and very efficient that way. So also, I think it's also useful. It's very competitive. Okay, you can make it into a game, so by setting that a disappearing xiongmao also adds to that competitive element and appeals to a lot of boys as well. I'm sure a lot of you probably have heard, if you have not tried API, but you probably have heard about 40 Echo. Yeah, so that's one of the ways that we do it. Like, 老师说一次, and you then get the pupils then repeat it a second time. You say it one time correctly, the second time you say it again with a slight mistake in the keyword, and then pupils just to correct you. Okay. Yeah, this is another game, the Dragon Ball. It's simple and it's quick. Is to just you say a target and you say a sentence from the sentence builder, throw the ball. Well, the ball is the target. The sentence or target language, throw it to the pupil. The person catching it has to repeat what you've said in set a time. Like if the sentences are shorten the time, but give them a fixed time to do it, and then they throw it back to you. And that in a very quick way, you have a really kind of fast and furious game of catch the Dragon Ball. Okay. Okay, you're listening. So again, I say something. I'll read out the sentence and then have the sentence disappearing away from them, and then have the pupils repeat it back to you. Now, in the beginning, I'll just keep it very simple. I'll let them look at the sentence, I'll read it out, and then it goes away, and the pupils are expected to just sort of hold the sentence and then repeat it back to me. But if they're getting better at this activity, quite often is once I've given them the sentence, read the sentence, and while they're trying to hold it in their head, you start randomly asking them questions. Oh, how's the 今天的天气怎么样? Just to mess with their head a little bit, just strip, and then get them to repeat the sentence back to you. See how well they can remember it. Cool. Yeah, there's a lot of listening and stuff. Like this is an example of a tingly bingo. This is not based on some of it, but yeah, most of it is based on Unit 2 sentences. So it's a simple one. You ask people to draw the grid, fill in with the number. They need, because there are 12 sentences, but they're only 6 grids, so they need to pick 6 numbers, and then the teacher read out 6 sentences, and if they manage to pick all the numbers of the sentences you read out, they can bingo. Okay, so it's just listening activity with a bit more game-like to it. Yeah, so somebody has written down like say 1, 1, 2, 3, or 7, 8, 9. But if I read out 10, 11, and 12, then they're not going to be able to bingo at all. So, okay.
Great. Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much. I mean, if anyone else is willing to share any resources, I'm sure there's plenty of teachers on here today that are also using the sentence builder method already. So if anyone's willing to share, feel free. But the floor is now open. So if there's anyone got any questions, feel free to put it in the chat, or turn your mic on and ask a question. Is absolutely fine. 你们也可以说中文，我们也可以用中文交流，没有问题。Okay, it's over to you guys. Okay, so we've got some lovely messages. Thanks in there. Oh, we've got someone. Yes.
Thank you, Chris, for this demonstration. I just wonder if you could quickly demonstrate how to track students' performance, please.
On the language gym, yeah?
Yes, please.
Yeah, Dylan, I think you might be the best person to do this, but you can't share your screen, can you?
Hi, yeah, I would be. I wonder if I can leave and come back via Zoom. Should I try and do that?
I'll try and do that, yeah.
If you just hold the fort, Chris, I will try and do that.
Right, yeah, because Dylan would be the best person to show you that, because he's got loads and loads of students. You know, this is again.
Sure,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's brand new, so you know, it's only going to start in September, so we haven't actually got many students on it yet. So cool. So any other questions? Yes, good questions in the chat here. We got Amy Thompson. What's pre-intermediate level equivalent to? Okay, so beginner to pre-intermediate is kind of like A1, A2, according to the Pure European Languages Framework. The book one is good to know, everybody. It covers about 46% of the GCSE content, which is really good to know. So book one is 46%. Book two will cover most of the rest. And again, it's up to you as teachers to kind of add the extra stuff there. So it's really, really, really great that in book one they can do that. So yeah, Dylan's on. He's going to show you now the.
Okay. I'm going to give you guys a very quick live demo. Please bear in mind that this is on my own personal account. So, Chris, if you do share this later on, then don't share anything that has names on it, please. Let me just show you inside my classes. In fact, while I'm